Hi, everyone. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee on this election day, as the weather across the United States is pretty quiet, actually. I want to start with last night's European model run, which was fairly dynamic for the middle part of next week. But before we even get there, we are still dealing with the two cold shots that moved on through. Now, here's the one that just is coming through for Wednesday, and you can see what's happening here. This trough that's dropping down in the northwest flow intensifies. It also acts as a kicker, and it's taking the storm that is right now off the east coast and moving it out to the east-northeast. Now, with that storm out there, that's the reason why the weather is so beautiful up and down the eastern seaboard today, because we have dry air that's being funneled down on the backside of this. So we're in pretty good shape here. And then into tomorrow, maybe a few showers when this moves on through before we get another shot of cold air. And you can see for Thursday evening, the next trough is already rotating around this vortex that's up in Canada. So that, in effect, kicks out this system away, and the next one comes along. So it's a pretty fast, active flow that we're seeing here, and that's going to continue into the weekend. Now, this cold shot is not going to hang around for very long. It is going to be a cold shot for sure, especially for Saturday, when many areas are going to have a tough time getting out of the low and mid 40s, and nights are going to be down. Saturday night into Sunday morning will be quite cold. I think you'll see a lot of people down in the 20s for the first time. So the model where it's evolved over the last week on this cold shot is that it is moving it along. Unlike the prior two, it's not making, at least right now, it's not making a little storm off the east coast. This one is just going to pretty much move along with no consequence, and then out it goes. But what it did down the road, and you can see what's happening here. You've got this action that's going on in Canada with the vortex. It's just kind of rotating around, and there's a little bit of cold air that's coming down into northern Canada for the first time that we've seen, really. The warmth in Canada is lessening to some degree because you do have a little bit of a polar flow here. But as we move through time, and now we're into Monday night, and here we are for Tuesday night. You can see as these systems rotate around, there's a fairly sharp trough that forms from central Canada down to the southeast coast to Florida. And if that is the case, you're probably going to wind up with some kind of storm development here that's going to impact the Northeast. Now, the thing is, this is what we call phased. In other words, rather than have two distinct separate systems, they join together and you have one long phase system. This generates a lot of energy in the atmosphere, and you can see what happens eventually as we move into later next week. You get a very strong cyclone that develops here in the Northeast. Now, one thing we can tell you is, as far as cold air is concerned, there's very little of this. So this is going to be, if this plays out, it would be a big windswept rain event that comes through here on Wednesday night into Thursday night, and that'll greatly help the drought. And then it's done. Now, you do have some changes continuing up, going on into Canada here. You have a ridge that's building up in the west. You have some kind of, some sort of flow that's moving out of Canada. You have a ridge that's up to the southeast of Greenland. The southwest of Greenland, just between Labrador and Greenland. I guess that's the best way to describe it. So, this is a much stormier look in terms of the long term. And you also have energy off the west coast that's coming in. Things are moving along there. So still in this kind of evolutionary process regarding the longer term. Now, I'll show you how it reflected this on the surface, because it did generate a fairly deep low. And you can see it right here, 965 millibars. It has a cyclone that's up in the Great Lakes that just kind of redevelops right along the coast here, and then it really explodes on this model as it moves into southern New England. That's a tremendous amount of deepening in 24 hours and very slow movement too. So if this is real, and there's nothing that I'm suggesting here at this point to say that it is real. We have to see how models handle phasing going forward, because I think that's going to be the real key to all this. Now I'm going to pull up the GFS because we should have enough of it now. Let's see how far along we've got. Okay, so let's change regions here, because the GFS was not that different in the sense that it had the same idea, just that the phasing issue is going to be the big question. So we're going to have to work that out somehow over time. So let's take a look here on the GFS. So we still have the same idea as the European, with this trough dropping down into the east, and it's only out to about 180 hours, and you could start to see something lining up. But one of the issues here is you've got on the GFS, you have a lead system here, and you've got this energy back through here. So it doesn't quite line up in the same way that the European had it. If we just backtrack for a second, I'll show you the comparison. There's the European from last night. So has a much different. I'm sorry, I got the wrong European model. Not good. Okay, so let's take a look at here. So here's the 12Z GFS run. I'm going to ignore the phone. So let me move this along. So this is for next Wednesday. And when we go to the European, you can see the difference. Okay, so there's the GFS where it has an unphased look here. So you can see how this model's handling this. It's got a shortwave here. It's got this trough over here. So it never quite gets it to the same way the European did last night. So we have to see if this phasing issue is going to be real or not. In terms of the longer term, you can see there's still a lot of changes going on up in Canada with respect to the flow. So it's we're still watching this evolutionary process to see how this all plays out for the second half of November. So enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the beautiful weather. You don't get too many days like this in the month of November, with temperatures up into the 60s and deep blue sky, cloudless sky, in fact, for the entire day. Meteorologist JoeChaffee.com for all the latest. SSStormchasers.com. When the storms are around, you can count on them to be chasing them down. And, of course, local weather on NYCWeatherNow.com and WeatherLongIsland.com.